Dr. Faustus is a Marvel Comics villain. He has primarily been a Captain America foe, with memorable clashes against Spider-Man on the side. He's big on mind games, manipulation, and brainwashing. Dr. Faustus is a genius in psychology, psychiatry, and mental conditioning. He's able to relieve psychological conditions that ordinary doctors consider incurable. However, most of the time he uses his talent to destroy and brainwash. His signature technique is to immerse subjects into a flawless reconstitution of past traumatic events and other key memories. The subject will have been made abnormally suggestible before the session, usually using chemicals. For instance, the stage might be bathed in a transparent, odorless hypnotic gas, one that magnifies emotional reactions and lower the suspension of disbelief. Faustus is a great orator with superior charisma and a gift for persuasion. He can easily find and manipulate susceptible minds. He excels at modulating his voice to draw strong emotional responses based on subconscious associations. This write-up stops before Faustus starts employing more comic bookish means of mesmerism, such as the hypnotic cigarette smoke used against Spider-Man, Peter Parker, in 1977. Even later on, his techniques will evolve toward hypnotism and virtual reality immersion. Faustus appears to have both vast wealth and an ability to recruit highly skilled contractors. Both assets might be derived from his medical talents. For instance, he may have brainwashed multiple rich people into bankrolling him. He might heighten the resolve and focus of his henchmen via psychological conditioning. Thus, Faustus's reconstitutions will feature excellent actors, high-end costumes, lifelike masks, all the necessary props, powerful chemicals, etc. Super tech such as androids are also deployed if necessary. Faustus's hired muscle is unusually determined and disciplined, and if they have a role to play, such as pretending to be Nazi stormtroopers if Faustus is staging a World War II flashback for Captain America, some of them can give a credible performance. See the game stats section for more details about Faustus's tools. Dr. Faustus employs some comic book technologies. There's no reason to assume that they haven't been bought from suppliers. However, Captain America, Steve Rogers, thought that Faustus designed his more distinctive tech himself, and later appearances show Faustus to be a capable engineer. Our game stats thus assumes that he already has engineering skills at this point, but not quite as strong as they'll later become when we actually see him use them. Dr. Faustus is a giant of a man. It all very nearly worked, but Cap realized that something was off as the plan was nearing completion. S.H.I.E.L.D. analyzed the last pill, which Rogers hadn't swallowed, then gave him a mask and gloves that would make him seem aged. Which is another chronological oddity. Steve was born during the early 1920s, and this story takes place during the late 1960s. Cap clearly wouldn't be in his 70s. Pretending to be elderly, Cap drew Faustus and his helpers into a shield trap. He then downed the massive psychiatrist with one punch. Still determined to destroy Captain America, Faustus further researched his biography. He discovered that for a few weeks during the war, Cap had been in a relationship with one Peggy Carter. As an OSS field agent codenamed Mademoiselle, she worked with Forces Françaises de l'Intérieur partisans. Carter was rendered amnesiac by an explosion near the end of the war. Relatives eventually found her in Belgium and brought her back to the U.S., but no doctor could restore her memory. Dr. Faustus made strong progress in restoring Miss Carter to herself. The final bit was to immerse her in a perfect reconstitution of one of her battles alongside Captain America. For this, Faustus reeled in Captain America. Furthermore, he kidnapped Peggy's much younger sister Sharon and dressed her in replicas of what Peggy wore that day. Seeing this scene with Cap and her own spitting image fighting Nazis shocked Peggy into recovering her memories. Faustus then deployed phantoms and illusions, including the supposed ghost of Bucky, to delay Captain America and his allies. He needed time to learn secrets about Cap from Peggy. This didn't work. Though Faustus's gauntlet did stop Cap, the Falcon, Sam Wilson, helped the Star-Spangled Hero overcome it. Faustus was soon stopped with Peggy's help. Faustus was apparently released shortly afterwards. There wasn't much to accuse him of, and it had been done to cure a war heroine. At this point, Sharon was still presented as Peggy's much younger sister. As a sliding timescale made that impossible, she was retconned into being her niece, then her great-niece. Ay vey. Faustus's treatment of Miss Carter held. She recovered all of her memories over the following years. After she adapted to the modern world following 28 years of amnesia, she eventually joined the Avengers ground crew staff team. During this general time frame, Faustus recruited Carla Sofin as his young lover, accomplice, and protege. Later years, Sofin would become Moonstone, drawing liberally from Faustus's techniques to supplement her superpowers. See our Carla Sofin profiles for more. Faustus's next plan in 1975 was less heavy on illusions and psychological shenanigans. It went, locate a vulnerable employee within Stark Industries, then lean onto him to procure an arsenal of advanced weapons. Assemble a force of hardened criminal gunmen. Faustus convinced all of them that his plan was flawless and highly lucrative. Charter a luxurious Boeing 747, fill it with the criminals and the Stark guns, and fly to New York City. Blackmail the NYC out of a large sum, lest Faustus's army come out of nowhere and devastate the city. The main trick was that the authorities would assume that a force of hundreds of gunsels had to leave a large footprint. Nobody expected that they came from across the country in a jumbo jet. This made them invisible, so to speak. Through an incredible stroke of bad luck, Steve Rogers boarded the plane at the last second. He soon smelt a rat. During the brawl aboard the plane, a stray shot punctured the hull. Faustus was sucked out at 15,000 feet to his apparent death. Cap took control of the plane. The NYPD arrested the numerous passengers after landing, though they missed Sofin. Dr. Faustus was believed dead, but he easily survived. To quell his phobia of flying, he had been wearing a concealed parachute under his jacket. Thus, by 1977, the good doctor was back, but his further nefarious exploits belong to the second write-up in the series. Faustus almost always wears tailored 1950s three-piece suits. At this point, the designs aren't dated. They are therefore less distinctive than they'll later become. Dr. Faustus is driven by childhood neuroses. However, that is not yet an overt part of the stories. So at this point, Faustus just appears to be a typical, if competent, megalomaniacal comic book mastermind with a shtick, four-color, pop psychological warfare. He's pretty good at convincing himself that his plan is working just right, and he's still in control, even as things start going bad. This overconfident streak means he's unlikely to call in reinforcements or attempt to retreat until it's way too late. Faustus can be played simply by making canned rants. See the quotes below. What matters when deploying him at this stage is diabolical, manipulative schemes, ruthless use and/or search for psychological vulnerabilities. He doesn't quite use brainwashing yet. That'll come later. Other men, lesser men, have attempted to destroy Captain America before and have failed. But they did not know what I know. Whom Dr. Faustus will destroy, he will first make mad. The last bit being a classical reference. Many men have tried to destroy Captain America through physical means, and I am not above that, but only Dr. Faustus can also strike through the mind, and because of that, Captain America is doomed. My primal drive is to destroy your mind, Captain, but it's not an overwhelming drive. I would have settled, reluctantly, for having my men destroy your body, just as now you force me to utilize a weapon instead of a theory, a weapon that will incinerate your brain. Though Captain America is one of the most superb fighters of this century, it amuses me to totally destroy him without the use of force, without leaving a single clue. Quiet now. I must read the ultimatum letter perfectly to impart exactly the psychological effect I wish it to have. For we must cripple New York's collective minds before we empty its rather depressed pockets. At this stage, Dr. Faustus is to Captain America what Professor Hugo Strange is to Batman, so it might be simpler to amalgamate the two, or replace Strange with Faustus if that's more your thing.